Welcome to Mt Gravatt Careers Evening. Thank you all for coming, and thank you also for those who are watching us online. So we're live streaming this event. You will have plenty of chance to ask questions. In fact, my goal tonight is so that I actually don't have to do the talking. So please help me out. So what we will do tonight is essentially I'll have some questions for the panel, but then the idea is to open it up to the audience so that you can ask the questions that matter to you and find out the information that you want. Am I feedbacking? So that's how the structure of the evening will go. So have your questions already, and we'll progress as we go through. I'm Christine Wong. I'm the Deputy Head of School, Learning and Teaching. Some of you may have met me already. If not, I might see some of you later on as you continue through your studies. I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet tonight, and I would like to pay my respects to their elders, past, present and emerging, and extend those respects to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples. I'd also like to extend my thank yous to our alumni who graciously gave up their evening to come and speak to you a little bit about their career paths and the many options that are available to you out of a Bachelor of Criminology and Criminal Justice. So you may have seen, if you were watching those videos scroll through over and over again, that a lot of it was about the opportunities that come out of criminology. So tonight is about showcasing some of those opportunities and allowing you to ask all sorts of questions about what might be possible for you when you finish. So tonight, we have, I have to put my glasses on, sorry, Aleena Shilling, who's, I might get you to wave because I'm going to say this out of order to what you're sitting. We didn't do that very long. Who works in the Sentence Planning Coordinator for Sentence Management Services in the Queensland Corrective Services. We have Kate McGowan in the purple, who works as a civilian in the Queensland Police Service. So a lot of people aren't aware there are civilian positions. And currently she's a Strategy Officer for the Drug and Alcohol Coordination Unit with the service. Tom Richardson, who works as a Child Safety Officer in the Department of Child Safety, Still Youth and Women. However, Youth Justice is exiting out of that department to its own. Naomi, who is a Provisional Psychologist at the Brisbane Correctional Centre and works obviously for the Queensland Corrective Services. And finally, Wong, who has worked both government and non-government positions and is currently the non-executive director for Micah projects. So I will let them tell you a little bit about their current positions, and then I'm going to ask a few questions, and then we'll open it up to the floor. And I think I'm feedbacking again, aren't I? I've got to stand behind the speakers. So if you'd just like to go, I don't mind which end you want to start from, and explain, I'm going to get my time right. You've got 3 minutes. What's your current role?
Hello, I'm Caitlin. I'm currently a Strategy Officer for the Drug and Alcohol Coordination Unit, Queensland Police Service. So the Drug and Alcohol Coordination Unit oversee the QPS's response to anything to do with drug and alcohol, and we always make sure it stays in line with national and state strategies, policies, legislation, etc. Part of my role, so I'm on the alcohol side of the team, and part of my role heavily involves police banning notices. So you can get banned from a licensed premises, and the police can say you can't go there for 10 days, 3 months. It's part of my role to make sure the police are giving those notices out correctly and legally, because if they fill it out incorrectly, I can revoke it, which is when they ring me and they're like, oh, you're up my bad notice. Blah, blah, blah. You can also be banned by bail and court, so I also audit those just to make sure they are correct. My role also involves doing a lot of legislation and policy. The Queensland Government recently released a report into tackling alcohol-fueled violence, which is about to change a whole lot of legislation in relation to licensed premises and safe night precincts. So yeah, that's me.
Hi, I'm Aleena. I work in Corrective Services. I started off originally out of uni doing a lot of court scheduling, sentence calculations, so we'd get the result and we'd figure out how long that they needed to be in custody for and schedule discharges and things like that. So Yeah, it was all about lawful detention, and recently in the past few months I've moved into the parole section of it. So my day involves just prepping reports to go out and interview the prisoners for their parole applications. So I chat to them about their offending, substance use, mental health, anything that will affect their ability to report in the community. And then I assess their level of risk as a sort, and then make a recommendation to the parole board about whether they should get parole or not, and what kind of conditions would assist the prisoner to rehabilitate. Yeah, it's been a really good change because it really puts a degree into use, decision making and things like that. So that's my story.
Hello everyone, I'm Ria. I'm currently one of 7 non-executive directors with Micah Projects. So Micah Projects is across all Queensland. It's a non-for-profit and best described as a social justice organisation. So we work in a number of areas with people to assist with disadvantage, any challenges they might be facing. So some of the programs we have are working with people who are experiencing homelessness, mental health, persons who were abused in institutional care, domestic and family violence, family support. We work in a lot of different areas, primarily in Brisbane here, in the southeast corner, but we've also got services in Townsville and Rockhampton. So prior to that, I suppose I came to that role with 11 years in probation and parole, so fortunate enough to secure a position straight through uni, and I can talk a bit more about that later. 11 years in probation and parole, and then found, I suppose, a bit of a calling to the non-for-profit sector, into domestic and family violence work. I'm sure everybody here can attest to the fact that domestic and family violence is an underlying cause to a lot of the reasons why people might come in and out of our criminal justice system, both as perpetrators, victims or children. So that's my journey. Thank you.
Cool. Hi, I'm Tom. I'm a child safety officer. I work in far north Queensland. My role is such a diverse role, but overall it's a statutory role, so I work with a lot of legislation and policies. I work with a lot of children and families, assessing harm that has occurred. What else do I do? I work with a lot of government agencies, assessing information, obtaining and writing reports, court documents. That's pretty much in a nutshell, and I could talk about that later. But yeah, it's such a diverse role. I'm going to leave it because I could go on for hours.
Hey, I'm Naomi. I work for Queensland Corrective Services at Brisbane Correctional Centre. So I'm a provisional psychologist there, which means I'm in my first 2 years of being a registered psychologist. My day-to-day tasks, I guess, involve assessing prisoners as they come from the watch house or from other centres into our centre. So I'm assessing for suicide risk, self-harm, any mental health concerns they might have, any risks to other prisoners in the facility, and that kind of stuff. So when they're coming from the watch house, oftentimes they're withdrawing from substances or they're experiencing an elevation in their mental health from stressful court or whatever's happening in their life to get them to where they are now. And then I'll be, other tasks I might do is continually managing their risk. So if they're on a suicide watch, stuff like that, doing ongoing therapy sessions with the prisoners as they need it. And as well as that, doing assessments for rehabilitation, so assessing their criminogenic needs and whether there's any identified needs in that area that need to be addressed through programs or, that kind of thing. So, that's pretty much my general day-to-day, interviewing prisoners and assessing risk and a lot of report writing, so, yeah.
So, my question is, the job you have now, is it one you thought about when you were doing criminology with us?
No. When I was at uni, I never thought I'd work for the police. I kind of fell into it after I started volunteering with them. When I was at uni, I always thought the police were the people you see on the road, on the front line, and maybe 100 people in headquarters sitting at a desk. The number of civilian jobs that exist in the police is endless. Project office, strategy officers, you can be an intelligence analyst, you can do fraud and cybercrime. It's just increasing every day the number of jobs civilians can have in the police. So no, I never thought my job would choose.
I'm I'm definitely with that. I didn't even know that sentence management was a thing. I thought in corrective services it was mainly just like the officers that were there. I didn't really think of a lot of behind the scenes stuff. So I really thought I would go down the police route. But yeah, this is better. I still get the hands-on with the prisoners and that contact. So definitely not where I thought I would be, but happy all the same.
Definitely not. So yeah, my journey as an executive director with Micah Projects is I sit on their board. So it's a board role that not only did I not know existed, I didn't understand the importance of the non-for-profit world in criminal justice system. Having spent 11 years in government, you get to see the tireless work of our charities and our non-for-profits in the community and what they're doing for the people to prevent them getting into the criminal justice system, and that's really what drew me towards Micah Projects and the wonderful work that we do.
No, I didn't think I would ever end up with criminology and child safety, and I was like, how would that fit? But it does. It works. The theories that you learn, I use day to day, and you know, we're all learning theories. I'm like, oh, how's that work in life? But it does. And you don't go, you know, attachment theory and talk about it, but you understand the why people do things and how it has a rippling effect and how you can put the mentality behind it and understand. But yeah, no, it does work, and I didn't think it would, but it does.
As well, no. When I first started, I wanted to be a criminal profiler because I watched a lot of TV, and everyone laughed at me when I said that on my first day. But it wasn't long after that I snapped out of it and realised, that's not really where I want to go. My interest lay elsewhere, and that was in the forensic mental health side. And I thought that might lie in the area of policing, but that's not how it worked out. And by the end of my 4th year of studies, so I did the double degree, I realised I wanted to go down the mental health road, but I still think policing is something that could be in my future. So still that initial idea that I had, I still kind of hold that initial idea of, where my future might take me, I guess.
So you all mentioned kind of like turning points which suddenly opened your eyes to other possibilities. So was there anything in particular in the criminology program, as you mentioned, at some stage you changed? What was it that during your studies that kind of changed the way you thought about where you might end up?
For me, I think I did what's the course called again? Professional practice. Yeah. That's it. So it's like, I love this course. It's like an internship-based course. So it was in my third, it would have been in my 4th year actually that I did it. So yeah, you're placed in a criminal justice area from anywhere to anywhere, and I was placed in the domestic violence court in Southport. And although I did not like that court environment, that kind of general environment held a really interest that I didn't know existed, I guess, in that criminal justice system. Like you're entering the court, and then what happens? And that's, I think, where my interest sparked, and that was in my 4th year. So yeah.
I'm going to tap onto that. Like I did 3008, which is professional development. I did my internship at the Queensland Police in the Child Safety Sexual Crimes group. The stuff that I learned in that gave me a passion about what people do to children and how I could change the lives of children and work with people to make sure children aren't put at harm's way. So that was a turning point, and that sparked my inspiration to move on.
So mine was professional placement as well. I went through my 3 years at uni, not being the greatest of students, but got through. And when I was placed with probation and parole, I suppose the wave that was the Griffith and probation and parole journey kind of swept me up, and it was actually good, strong mentors within probation and parole, there's a lot of them, who saw things in me that were just basic skills that I had that would see me suit that career. So it was a combination of my degree, the basis of what I understood and the theory of change and all of the fundamentals that I learned through my career, through my uni studies, but it was who I was as a person that actually matched me to my career, I suppose, and people seeing that you've all got skills that would do well for you in your careers, and it's finding the right place for that. So I think it's connections and people that was my turning point. I had no idea personally. I just relied on others a little bit.
For me, I was just a bit lost after I finished uni, so I decided to go back and do postgrad. And it was while I was studying with a fella, Aaron Sell, if he's still around. He was fantastic. He likes to get into the evolutionary side of like crime, and we ended up doing a research thing on like anger and how it affects people's disgust towards violence. So it was during that I was like, I want to know why people do what they do. And yeah, that's how I ended up down this path. So postgrad. Pretty cool.
So my turning point was probably also professional practice. Really great subject, we all do it. I got placed at the University of Queensland at the Institute of Social Science Research, but it just so happened to be a policing project. So I was able to meet the police who were working on this project with UQ, and from there I learned so much about the civilian opportunities. You don't have to be a cop just to work for the police. And I was able to get into volunteering from there, and it just felt like that.
So thinking about the opportunities you had as an undergraduate, how important was that volunteering and doing the mentoring events and that sort of stuff, do you think, to the way you developed career-wise?
I didn't steal a
I think
mic.
Tom wants to go first.
Yeah. Super important. Yeah, the mentoring, getting out there and getting seen by professionals was so important, and being involved in university when you're mentoring, because that's what employers look for. People who put themselves out and want to learn what criminology is all about and how to implement the skills that you've learned through uni into practice.
Yeah. Volunteering is a great way to even get your foot in the door of an organisation as well. But at uni, it helps you network, it helps you meet the staff, helps you meet other students, and the staff know like everyone who works in the criminology sector, so they can hook you up with anyone if you want to. But also joining the Criminology Student Society, they run events with the police, you do prison tours, you can do police academy tours, they get the police to come out and do drag right and anything else like that. But the government and any other organisation, they really value your volunteering and your networking skills. So it's definitely a great thing to have and do.
So does anyone else want to say what else during their program may have helped them? Think about the extracurricular networking experiences that you can gain. Is there anything else in the degree that you think particularly was useful?
I think just real base level was just putting yourself out there enough to talk to your lecturer during and after the lectures was a huge, I was very anxious and scared, but eventually I did that, and just that little step that it took to talk to my lecturer, who was this amazing person in my eyes, helped me to be able to network when I went to Criminology Student Society events or other stuff that the uni held. So that was a real good stepping stone, because those people can introduce you to other people who introduce you to other people, and if you have the confidence to make that first step. I think that was a huge turning point for me, was just to ask a question that led to more questions and answers.
I'm just going to say something different, but I agree with what everyone said. For me, it's the Griffith community after graduation. So I think I mentioned before I wasn't the greatest student. I was probably more interested during uni in making money. I was in a commission job, and I skimmed through, and I didn't pay much attention to what was going on around me in the course. It was actually after and the alumni, which has really been my connection to a lot of opportunities since. So I've been on the industry advisory board for the Criminology and Criminal Justice School. I've had job opportunities come out of uni. There's been projects and opportunities to consult and contribute. You run into your lecturers and heads of school at different events, because the criminal justice system network is quite tight in a way. And there's actually a lot of connections across other degrees and other people, and everyone knows somebody, and it's the opportunity to network and step out of your comfort zone. I think you never know what might happen if you just take a chance and have a conversation.
So any other tips? What would be your top tip? We've got volunteering, we've got networking, we've got making the most of those kinds of working and learning experiences. Is there any other? If we had to think about top 5?
In studying?
Studying?
Oh, no. In studying? Like, what are we talking about?
No, study, top tip 4 is study, yes.
Alright.
If you were thinking back to what you would advise students to do, and if you say top 5 tips I'd give myself if I was studying again, what would they be?
Don't be a solo learner. Make a study group. That was the best thing we ever did. Because Caitlin and I were at the uni together, and some other people here, we had big study groups. Mind mapping, talking about the theories, understanding, because everyone has a different perspective and interpreting that, making a big study. We had 15 people, and we would sit in a room and write all the theories out and a way to think about them. But definitely study groups.
Oh, I like that too.
Yeah. Study.
I find it was the support services available here, like even getting someone to have a look over your resume, because that's a really big thing to get your foot in the door. And that's a service offered here at uni, and I didn't really engage with that early on. So I was really glad towards the end that I did access that help that was available. Even like the peer-assisted study sessions, I was part of those as well. So any extra help, just definitely take it. And even look ahead. There might be different jobs that you haven't even heard of yet that'll pop up, and you'll be like, oh, that's fantastic. Like you're setting yourself a goal and a place to be, and it makes it a worthwhile in the end.
So I'm going to ask a very dangerous question, which they always tell me when I study law you shouldn't do when you're cross-examining, because I don't know the answer to it. Would you change your mind about what you studied if you went back? They might all come out and say, no, I didn't do criminology. This is
Yeah, studying the double with forensic science definitely ruined every TV show crime-related ever. It's so unrealistic. Like, my fiance wants me to watch Criminal Minds. I was like, I just can't. That stuff doesn't exist, so it's disappointing, but I would definitely stick to having that knowledge. It's a cool party trick to know a few forensics things or crime-related things, so I would do it all again, for sure.
Yeah, no, I wasn't going to do university. I was going into the Queensland Police, and I was going to do 1 or 2 subjects while I was waiting to start in May. And then
every male in year 1.
But no, I started university, and yeah, withdrew for the police because I actually loved criminology. Yeah, I was one of them first people like, oh, it's going to be forensic handcuffs and running around. You know, it's theory-based, you're learning. But I loved it. I loved the whole thing of understanding crime and understanding different aspects. It's not like, you know, your sociology of crime and victimology. I did offender profiling because I was going to move to America and be the best profiler known to mankind, and learning about it. I was like, oh yeah, that's cool. But everything you learn and research, I thought, nah, I'm going to hate research. They were my highest marks. It was research-based. You know, I would not change anything. Caitlin and I are talking about coming back and doing our masters because we loved it that much.
I wish I had known about the degree earlier on. So when I finished high school, I kind of thought, okay, maybe I'll be a teacher. Went to UQ for 2 years, did education. Hated it so much. And then I'm like, well, what do I want to do? And then I realised how much I sit in front of the TV and watch crime shows. And I'm like, so maybe I should do something with this. So I did a bit of research and found out the criminology degree existed. And I'm like, why didn't I know about this 2 years ago? It would have been so helpful. I love the degree. Doing this degree was the best decision of my life. So I would not change a thing.
I feel like changing it would rewrite every single step I've taken since, including my personal life. So no, I wouldn't change it. But I do wish, and I graduated in 2005, so maybe technology wasn't much of a big thing then. I think it was like flip phones and Nokias. But I wish double degree existed. If I was going through undergrad now, I would absolutely do the double degree in IT and criminology. So many times in my career, technology, data, numbers has been so integral to proper research and understanding criminal behaviour. Everything from improving services when you're on the front line delivery with a government agency, it's IT. if you are that person that can get both of those things, you're going to go very far. So if there's any people that are all inclined technology-wise, I would highly encourage the IT and criminology degree, because it's the way of the future. Every article you read is about how some jobs will be lost, and I think if you can understand criminal behaviour and have an IT mind and use that in a degree, that would be absolutely my recommendation.
All right, that's enough from me. So I'd like to open it up to the floor. If there's something you would really like to know about any of these careers, any of the pathways, because some of them have done other jobs before, the ones that they currently have. Who would like to be... Oh wow, normally I have to encourage, we have more ways to throw at people to encourage them to ask questions, but
thank you guys so much for sharing this information. It's absolutely incredible to hear it from someone who's firsthand in the industry. But my question is, I am studying sociology and criminology. So under that double degree, I haven't had to do the subject 30008. I have a keen interest in corrections, and I'm just interested if you guys could give me any pointers as to how I could get my foot in the door without doing that subject.
Ria, that would be you.
So I worked for Provisional role, now called Community Corrections, I believe, for 11 years, and got my pathway through the placement. I don't know that there's many volunteering jobs. I think I'm speaking from my own experience, things might have changed in the last few years. Study the organisation that you think you want to go into. So read the annual reports, look at their strategic plan, look at their reports on government services, understand them. If you are someone that's highly educated, interested and passionate about what you're doing, but if you can show interest and understanding of that agency, that would be my first tip. Be persistent in a different way. So they would probably get phone calls, emails, go in, meet them, have them see you, present yourself well. There's, in corrections in the community, there's community service. So a number of, I'm not sure of the number, in Queensland people have to do community service orders, which is like doing work in the community for free. A lot of the organisations that sponsor offenders to do that work are charities and non-for-profits. Knock on their door. Ask if you can be involved in supervising the offenders do the work placement. Non-for-profits would love to meet you, see you. It's going to give you exposure to those individuals and their circumstances in a way that you won't get anywhere else, and they'll be so grateful to have you. So that would be how I'd do it. I'd get creative and be different. Don't just do it on paper, but get your resume up to scratch. Get some help with that, because it does matter what you put on paper. You have to present well on paper. But think about different ways. I can talk to you after a bit more if you want.
Thank you so much.
And Griffith also offers a general university level course called Community Internships, which many programs do recognise, and they do have criminal justice placements as well. Yes. Yes, there's a mic somewhere. It's coming.
Okay, so my question's for Caitlin. So I'm a present a fourth year Bachelor of Law Structure of Criminology student. I was actually wanting to pursue a career in intelligence-based policing, and I was just wondering, what are the types of processes as entering the police force as a civilian?
So, civilian job in the police, it's just like any other government job basically. So again, just whether it's Smart Jobs or Seek or submit your application online. And again, you'll go through the generic interview process. They will ask you questions about how you will be able to support their strategic policies and all that jazz. So yes, annual reports, they're great. But yeah, intelligence is a great role to get in. So most of the entry-level intelligence roles are AO3s, AO4s. They're your base starting point, and then you just move up from there. I'll talk more about that after as well.
Thank you.
In the middle.
How did you go about getting into your current role?
find on Smart Jobs, and I happened to come across a sentence planning advisor, so an AO2 with Corrective services, which was, as long as you could go, it was entry level, and from there I moved up to now being an AO4 within that time. So definitely apply for anything entry level was what helped me. You have that foot in the door, you meet everyone in the office, people are coming in all the time from different departments, and just say hey. So yeah, it was with the Sense Administration Hub, which is a real up-and-comer because they're managing heaps of different correctional facilities and their prisoners' court matters. So from there, I had networked with someone in the parole unit, and yeah, that's how I got there.
Are you required to have done first job work for that?
No, I wasn't. A lot of people I'd work with didn't even have a degree. So if you go on Smart Jobs, it even through the uni, I think, was how some of the others found the job. So definitely apply for those ones. The postgrad did help for my current position though, because I write reports for the parole board, so it helped to have that skill to gather the knowledge, analyse it and present it to other people back. So in my parole job, yes it helped, but in my initial job, no, it wasn't required.
So how many of you basically found your job through going to the online government adverts and seek.com and something like those?
Smart Jobs?
Yes.
Yeah, I was Smart Jobs. I was corrections before.
Yeah. So your first entry-level job was through those government advertising websites?
Yeah.
A lot of those jobs will actually be permanent. So there's a lot of entry-level positions that are temporary. So the way the government works, the higher up the chain goes on leave and people backfill up and there's higher duties. So a lot of the time in my career, I didn't sit in the job that I was substantially successful for, I sat in higher duties. So my first job came out of a vacancy, out of placement. I was literally offered a temporary contract for 3 months. Don't be afraid of temporary, don't be afraid of the lower paying jobs, because if you're the right fit, you'll move very quickly.
Exactly, just don't be afraid of temporary jobs. Everyone's like, I didn't even know I was temporary when I went for my job. I didn't bring my contract. And my manager pulls me into the office and is like, oh, Tom, I'm going to give you permanent. I'm like, no, I'm permanent. And she's like, no,
I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah. She's like, no, you're temporary. And I'm like, oh, I get the contract. I'm like, oh, yeah, okay, well, I'll just sign away. But yeah, don't be afraid of temporary. Like most of my people that come into my field come in as temporary and then get the permanent.
My job is still temporary.
Keep extending.
It doesn't mean anything. It's just entitled. Yeah, it's just how the government works. I started as an AO2 3 years ago. That is, again, lowest. I was just doing administration for a very small unit in the police called the Innovation Unit. And from there, I went to an AO3 relieving as the executive assistant for the Assistant Commissioner, which is, I learned so much in that role. I was only there for 5 months, but I learned how a command operates. I learned how the QPS operates as a business, not only as a police service, but as a business. That was just amazing, and that helped me get the AO4 role I'm in now. So yeah, don't be afraid to start from the bottom and work your way up.
Yeah, it's quite funny. I initially saw mine and it said 3 months, and I was like, oh, I'm not going to be out of a job in 3 months, and felt terrible. But I've been on 3-month contracts for 2 years now, and I finally got my first 7-month contract, and I'm cheering, loving it. But yeah, you stay in town for a while, but it doesn't mean in the long run.
And particularly not within a lot of our criminal justice services, because we know that they're expanding. We know that we have more prisons being built than ever before and more jobs coming through in probation and parole, so it's a great time to study and get into those areas because the job opportunities will open up.
Hi, I'm going to apologise for this in advance, but how have you found your own personal mental health in the last few years, especially relating to your current position?
I'm going to jump in on that one. I was in a role that didn't suit me as well as it could. I found that I was just doing what I had to do to get through the day. But after finding my passion, I'm keen to go to work, and I was like, I'm never going to be that person that wants to be working. I am happy to be a stay-at-home mum. I'm all good with that. That's my career right there. But find something you love, because it really impacted my mental health. Like my fiance would say, like, why are you cranky every day after work? And it's like, well, you know, I was just part of something that just wasn't what I stood for. So.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's my best advice, is to go where you're happy, even if it's just for a little while.
Yeah, I have something to add as well to that in terms of like some of the stuff that I hear every day is like real full on. And so managing that in your own mind, I went straight into this area specifically being like, I can deal with anything, like my brain is unbreakable. And then there's every now and again, and generally your brain is like really good with that stuff, but every now and again you get like a little bit of something that's a little bit off, and you learn to identify when you feel a bit sick, or you're a bit extra tired, or you're a bit cranky, or something that you've heard or something you've experienced has just put you off a little bit. And that's when you know, like, what do I need to do to get myself back on track? Do I need to like go for a swim? Do I need to talk to somebody about it? Get supervision. In a lot of government roles, if not all roles, someone is there to talk to you about it, so you can just sort of go, ugh, and it helps.
And don't be ashamed to ask for help. I never thought about going to counselling, but I went through some heavy stuff with some of my caseloads, and I went through a psychologist. Didn't think I was ever going to do it. I tell people, I direct people to go see a counsellor, but I finally directed myself to go see a counsellor and walked in, and I was like, oh, couch, I'm going to lay there, and got my blanket and we talked. I unpacked everything that was going on in my mind, and did that for like 2 or 3 sessions, and yeah, I took my own advice and it helped my mental health, otherwise I would have been a wreck.
I think this might speak to some of the Open University people watching as well. I think that a lot of it, we're all going to come to these jobs with our own life experience, some of us more than others. I think that we've all got different reasons for being here. I think exactly what everyone else said, if you find the right role, you'll be okay. External supervision, absolutely. Internal supervision, anything. But there is a bit of a journey of self-development that happens whilst you're in the role. I was a parole officer at 19, 20, coming across from murderers, faking until I made it. I absolutely was. I relied on my degree and what I knew and got myself through it, and you do develop some resilience for stuff. There's things that I could hear or talk about on the news that my family and friends couldn't, and it doesn't affect me, but there's other things that really affect me. I think you find where you fit and you find where you're comfortable, but my advice would be definitely do not pursue something that you know is a trigger for you, because it will trigger you in your career and in your work. But there's a comfort zone there, right? We're all driven by passion and purpose to do this work, and if you can find the right place, you'll be okay.
Okay, so my question is to Naomi. I was just wondering, with your provisional psychologist role, were you offered that through your correctional sector, or did you go and apply for it yourself, or do you recommend doing a master's through it? So I'm currently enrolled in Criminal Psych here at Uni on 30th.
Yeah, so I did the double Crim and Psych, and then I did my honours year in psychology, so you have to do your honours year in psych to get any kind of rego. And yeah, I applied through Smart Jobs for just a provisional psychologist role. I actually initially had applied for a custodial correctional officer role, and I got through the training and was about to start when I saw this provisional psych role, and I was like, well, I'll apply for that because that is kind of what I want. And yeah, I was just fortunate enough to get an interview and get through, and yeah, that's how I pretty much got my foot in the door. But I was initially told, if you really want your foot in the door and you want to work in corrections, to apply for any kind of base level job, whatever it is, because once you're in there, you're talking to all the different services, and if I was a correctional officer, I would have been talking to the psych team and stuff, and when a position became available, I could have applied for it knowing those people already, if that answers your question.
Thank you.
So what's it like studying psychology and criminology, like a dual degree?
Awesome.
Double the subjects.
No, it's good. It's like those two subjects, I'm doing this, they go together literally like this. Like the theories that you learn in the criminology degree and the theories that you learn in the psych degree just go so well together. And a lot of it overlaps as well. So you're learning about criminal behaviour and theories around crime, and then you're also learning about theory behind human behaviour and theories about why people do what they do, and you can see why that would be so perfect together. So yeah, like doing the double though, it doesn't add any extra workload on each trimester, but it adds it was a 4-year degree rather than a 3-year degree. But in terms of doing the actual degree, those two work so well together, and the course is structured so that the units that you're doing are paired together nicely, so they really complement each other. So you might be doing a couple of units that are very similar, and you're doing assessments on very similar things that they just feed into each other really well. So yeah.
Hi, I'm studying law and criminology, and I hold in discussions directly towards Tom Rea. I hold a great interest in going into family law, domestic violence, or even child safety and that. What career advice would you give someone who want to go down that line, or any potential entry that might aid someone?
You go first.
Understanding feminism would be my number one tip for you. There's a lot of world-renowned theories. There's going to be a significant amount of change happening in that space in family law, and I would strongly encourage you to be a very gender-informed individual to succeed in that environment. It's tough, but it's so needed. We need strong, DV-informed family law practitioners across everything. If you can, get in and understand, probably the safest way to get in and observe, volunteer, understand would be into men's behaviour change programs. There's not too many places that men can safely work in women's services. A lot of DV services specifically for women you won't be able to have a male on staff observing or anything, but men's behaviour change programs. Particularly important as well in understanding all of that work for the children aspect. David Mendel's Safer Together, Duluth model, there's a lot of amazing theories that you can study. There's so much information online that will help you to understand, and some of these practitioners come to Australia, so if you can get yourself in that space. Connecting with associations, networks. There's a lot of newsletters and things that you can just start to become informed about what's happening in that space, and you'll also find the right firm or the right pathway that you connect with. There's a lot of different, how do I say this eloquently? There's a lot of different approaches that different law firms take, so find where you fit, because that is very present in family law.
Yeah, covered it all pretty much, yeah. No, that's all right.
With careers in criminology, are they more often aimed at state and local levels, or are they also more at national or federal level?
What was that question? So what was that question?
Sorry. Careers in criminology, are they more often based around state and local sectors, or are they also at more national levels?
I've got friends that work in federal government. They're not necessarily, they weren't recruited into those roles because criminology was a prerequisite. So when you see government roles with a P in front of it, it means professional and it means there's a relevant qualification. Criminology is not often listed as a relevant qualification, but it applies across so many different areas. I work in a few other areas at the moment that the degree and study and practice and understanding is so broad, it makes it relevant in a lot of areas. I've got friends that in national areas, disability reform, tax, a whole bunch of different areas that you would never think. Treasury, like, DJAG, courts.
Federal police, Institution of Criminology in Canberra. Oh, what else?
Customs.
Customs.
There's also federal level intelligence positions.
Army. It goes everywhere, yeah.
In the domestic and family violence field specifically, there's a lot of international work because if you're leading and doing that work well, whether it be primary prevention, tertiary, secondary, everywhere is experiencing challenges with domestic and family violence and violence against women. So there's certain pockets of interest. within criminology that are international. Cyber crime would be a perfect example. Human trafficking, child sexual exploitation. There's
United
a lot
Nations.
of United Nations.
United Nations. Oh, there's just so many jobs, and it just goes on and on.
There's a lot of non-for-profits as well that work outside of Australia's boundaries. So Save the Children is a perfect example. If you can think of any of the big charities, they work across boundaries. So sometimes it's easy to get your foot in the door locally, just because Brisbane may not be their head office. So one thing I would say as a young person, I had the pleasure of moving. If you can, be flexible and move. Go where the job takes you. So that might be something. If you go to ASIO, I think you've pretty much got to move.
Yeah, you've got to move.
Yeah.
I worked in immigration. I worked on Christmas Island. Never left Queensland. They gave 4 of us an option, and I was like, "Yep, I'm going." Never been outside the Queensland, and I didn't even know where I was going. I thought it was on the west coast, but it was on the east coast. Just take every opportunity as it comes and be prepared to move. I've never been up far north Queensland. I work in a remote area. Having that experience and being able to formalise and build on my character and different diversity of communities. So every community is different, to like big city to a small little suburban area, and Yep.
So the interviews that I've had have been like all feedback is based around experience. So that's like working with like youth and child safety and stuff. So I'm just wondering like how would I gain, so like where would be the best place to gain volunteer work? Just to get that experience.
As someone who's done a lot of interviews for people coming through from graduation, I'd say look at the skills you already have that are transferable. So anyone here doing customer service, you are ready for frontline work. It's transferable skills. It's how you can twist it to say there's interviewing skills. There are interviewing skills. You need to be good at interviewing. You need to be able to talk about why and how you do things on a day-to-day basis. So they're looking to recruit the person with the right values and character as much as they're looking for someone who's actually done work in those spaces. So there's a way to interview well as well. But I would say look at what you're doing already and try and tweak it a bit. There are ways to get in to volunteer. I'm going to say non-for-profit and charities, they are dying for help. And you would be an absolute asset to go in with an understanding of these kind of things, to go into those organisations, and they are all dying for help. I haven't worked in a government organisation yet that has a really strong volunteer base. I have worked in government organisations that have amazing connections with Griffith, because it comes with a whole bunch of support around the students going through. But volunteers, it's a big thing for an organisation. RSPCA has investigators that go and investigate animals. They have a huge volunteer program across their whole organisation. There's a whole bunch of different things that might not seem relevant, but can be. I can talk to you later as well. I've got an idea.
Yeah, it's definitely about the transferable skills. That's how I landed my job in the parole unit, because I never had contact with a prisoner before, and they're telling me you're sitting in a room with a prisoner by yourself and you're going to have an intelligent conversation with them. And I didn't know how to interview or anything like that. So highlight what you do know. Even your study at uni proves something. It proves that you can apply yourself to something. It proves that you can, write reports and time manage. Definitely a big thing for every company. So yeah, your university is definitely a transferable skill. Definitely use that.
I remember writing when I was doing application, because working, trying to say that I can do stuff. I wrote that I was doing 4 subjects, required 6 assessments and the ability to time management, that on top of part-time work, writing all that so you can show that you can complete things on time, and work for me.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm studying a double degree of Crim and Psych, so this is kind of directed at Naomi, but also the rest of you if you have any relevant answers. I'm just wondering what opportunities there are for research along with practical work, and how would you go about finding them and doing them?
When I first graduated, I started in non-government organisation, which was a foster care support agency. So you work alongside child safety, supporting foster carers in their journeys. And so that in itself was like I didn't need to do my honours in psych or anything like that. I just had the double degree. You can work in the child safety and all of those corrective services areas with just the straight double degree. In terms of research and that kind of thing, a lot of unis run programs for research. I know, I think most unis run programs for research, and you will work on their base. I don't know what you call that, but yeah. So a lot of opportunities arise from just having that double degree, because you've got that sort of. You can go into the area of just straight criminal justice. You can go into the area of the psychology side, so private practice, counselling, support workers, even the social work. There's a lot of overlap with psych and crim and social work. So I technically was a social worker when I worked in the foster care agency. Do you guys have anything? Yeah. Does that answer your question?
As someone who wants to take their degree internationally, this question's going to need a Ria, because you said that you've seen experiences of this. From your colleagues and acquaintances you've made through your work, how have they found working internationally with a degree from Griffith?
I don't think that there's a comparable degree for criminology anywhere other than Griffith. It's the first, when there was, I don't think there was anyone doing it back when I applied, and I've seen Griffith on the centre stage for a lot of things, and Griffith students and Griffith doing wonderful work. So the Griffith Criminology Institute's a perfect example. Their work would cross every boundary. I think it's such a big sector. I think you'd need to narrow down a specific area you wanted to work in across that international boundary. None of the problems we face here in Australia and Queensland when it comes to criminal justice aren't being experienced in the rest of the world. If you want to talk about the experience of Indigenous persons, there's great synergy with Canada. If you want to talk about, there's so many different synergies when we talk about how an Australian study experience would be relevant internationally. It's going a long way back to think about the exact topics I've studied whilst I was in criminology, but you can certainly pick, once you know an area that you're interested in, you can certainly pick electives and things that focus on that. I believe that there's opportunities to, I don't know what the word is, study overseas.
Study abroad, yep.
Study abroad,
yep.
Good word.
Yep.
There's those opportunities, networking conferences, things like that. I've been a presenter at national conferences, and people come internationally to hear from Australian experts on things, and the connections that you make when you network in those kind of spaces are really invaluable. So I'd say narrow your focus a little bit on what specific area, and then there'll be a world of opportunities. Child protection is another example.
Yep.
Some of the leading experts in child protection come from the US and the UK. When you look at data and IT, there's a lot happening in the Netherlands. So if you know the area, there'll be a leading country. But generally speaking, I think the Griffith Criminology degree is unbeatable when it comes to worldwide application. All we have to do is look at the international representation of lecturers to know that.
I would also recommend joining the Australian and New Zealand Society of Criminology, something through Griffith. Best. I met a lot of lecturers and a lot of professors around the world at that conference. I met one guy, I was like, I've used all his research, and you know, people who do theories, you're like, oh yep, they're gone, they're past. And I met him, and I was like, oh my god, I've been using all your work and you're alive. I can't wait for your...
I've got your reference wrong.
Yeah, I know. I just did your adolescence drinking, and wow, are you doing a new search thing? And he's like, oh god, this weird kid. I'm like, but anyway, you're alive, great to see. But networking at them events, like you meet everybody. There was just so many people, and I didn't know what room to go in because you had like 40 rooms, and I wanted to go to all of them to meet everybody, to network. Yeah, so definitely joining them sort of groups through Griffith. how did my experience go? Oh, we all know how this went last night. So, did my 6 weeks, 8 weeks training, got on a plane, went to Perth, then flew over to Christmas Island. My first day on the island, riot. The place on fire. I mean, like every building, the whole place on fire. And I'm like, holy shit, am I going to stay? Yep, no I am, because I've just been on 5 flights to get over here. I'm staying. What I learned there when, you see on the news and they say detainees are bad and all this sort of stuff, it's over-exaggerated. They're actually humans. And that's what we need to remember as society. Like, yeah, people do wrong things, but being there, I dealt with so many diverse cultures, which opened my eyes. I'm like, people go Iraqis and blah, 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 terrorists. No, they're actually great people. Muslims, people put stigma on them. No, they're people. And I actually sat there and learnt their culture. Working in immigration just opened my eyes to everything. And the stigma and what goes around it, I just can't say enough about it. And being there in immigration and understanding, Christmas Island was for criminals that broke the law, who had 12 months incarceration in Australia. So they are criminals, and learning what they did, and sometimes what they did in their country was acceptable, was not acceptable in our country, and they broke our law and now they're getting deported. It was the best experience, just meeting everybody. I hope that kind of answers your question. I applied on Seek.
Then the register, federal stuff? Is it like an EOI register?
Yeah, I think so. It was a long time ago, so I'm trying to remember. I've applied for heaps of jobs since then. I'm so good at selection criteria, it's not funny.
Top tip.
Top tip. I've got them all saved to my template. I'll shoot them out. Just change your name, please. Change my name. I think it was a very long process. I had to do a long medical, and I don't think they got the memo because I talked to so many other different people, and there was like an hour, and mine was like 6 hours carrying a crate up and down 6 flights of stairs and putting extra weight, and the doctor's like, you keep going. I'm like, no, I'm dead. But learning all that and sitting there in the interview and talking about my experiences growing up, and it was a long time ago, but you're right, you're a reader.
If you're thinking about other pathways for experience that might be relevant that will also help you, I would also, again, look for not-for-profits, look for charities that are doing work in that space that are working with refugees who've transitioned, or Multicultural Families Organisation here in Brisbane. There's a lot of organisations, associations that you could get involved with to understand someone's experience coming through, and that might also just help you to solidify that that's the path you want to take. A lot of the time volunteering and offering your hours and support is quite risk-free in a lot of ways. They get to test you out, you get to test them out, you get to see if an organisation on paper is what it feels right for you, and I would highly encourage everybody to give that a crack.
I'm really interested in criminal profiling. I do love The Mentalist, and shows like that, I really love it. I just wanted to know what the best pathway to getting into that job would be.
I'm going to tell you what Aaron said to me, because I'm going to be like the best profile ever. It is paper. It's not, you're not running around and drawing maps, and it is very theory based. I'm like, well, don't I get a gun and go get to chase people and follow them and do like an analysis? No, it was he's like very administration-like. Is that what you kind of got from Aaron?
It's
not, you're not running around.
Good lessons.
Yeah.
So, I really want to sit down face to face with people that have done really sorted.
If you want
to get into their mind and
Corrections.
That's my cup of tea. I sit there all day long and listen to their stories about why they did what they did. That's how I kind of got into that, because I was like, yeah, profiling, this is going to be awesome. Had all the books from like Paul Breton and all of that, who's a profiler that works overseas on that kind of thing. And yeah, but basically Aaron's like, unless it's like 4 jobs there, until someone dies, you're not going to get it. So this is my way of getting in their heads and understanding these things and trying to prevent it by learning more about them and their patterns for reoffending. So.
Yeah.
Do you write reports to police? Like, is there any working on police? Like,
so I don't gather any evidence to kind of prove that the crime has occurred. I jump in after the fact to kind of understand it a bit better about why and how we're going to stop that going on, because they need to identify the pattern themselves. A lot of the time they don't know why they keep ending up in the exact same spot. So yeah, sort of profiling, but not quite.
That's exactly what I do, like the patterns of history, because what has led to them to come to me, like what keeps occurring, so you're just writing and building a history table of what's going on.
Yeah.
So it's not really profiling, but it is.
Yeah, but and to sit down with someone and like, you're going into their mind, I guess you need to have that psychology background as well. And so I guess you can work in areas like, I know like through Queensland Health, they have roles where you'll talk with people who are in a secure mental health facility, so they've come from a prison but they're too unwell to be in a prison, so they'll be in this hospital-like environment. And they do a lot of research based on those sorts of theories, and I guess profiling per se, so they're not profilers, but that knowledge base allows them to file these, like make these reports and learn about why certain people do certain things, and that's where that knowledge base comes from, is somebody goes through all that stuff. So that is, someone sits down with those people who are unwell and they talk about their criminal history and their childhood and the factors that led them to offend, and so I guess that's, you're using all the theory base, and then you're coming forward and you're making an assumption about somebody. So I guess that's kind of similar to what you might be talking about.
There's probably a lot of roles in the criminal justice system that are post-sentence that involve that skill. So your parole officers, your pre-sentence, the work that police would be doing to put together intel reports. So, there's a spate of robberies on the Gold Coast and we need to do a profile up about who could be possibly doing them. Police would be going back through all their reports and looking for similar patterns and sitting down and interviewing people. You might be a psychologist that's preparing a pre-sentence report to aid a court to know what sentence to give someone. You might be a child safety officer who's pulling together sometimes generations of files together before going and interviewing somebody to make a decision about whether their children stay with them. You could be about to take a man onto a male behaviour change program for DV, and you need to understand the pattern of his domestic violence before you sit down with him. There's a lot of jobs that require that skill and the opportunity to sit down with people. It's the next step in that conversation that you need to figure out to know what job to do. So do you want to be the person that then works with that individual to change their behaviour? Do you want to be the person writing the report and passing it to somebody else to help their decision making? Do you want to be the person that works with their victims? It's the next step that kind of would help you to know what path to take, I think.
One more little question. What degrees would be best to get to that kind of role?
I would say criminology and psychology.
Yeah, definitely.
I would say criminology and psychology would definitely assist, but I'm not an expert in the area, and I don't think any of us are.
You can tailor make your courses with your electives. Like I picked the offender profiling one, victimology, rehabilitating offenders. So pick your subjects geared towards that path you want to take. So use your electives wisely.
Yeah, and definitely if it's when you want to find out what's going on in someone's brain and you want to write a report about it, that psychology side will really help with that, because that's going to get you the qualification to be able to work with those people and do those kinds of reports. Otherwise, you want to have the relevant qualification to be able to talk to someone in that way.
My question is probably directed more to Caitlin, but also to the rest of you. But I'd just like to ask, what are some required skills or abilities would you say needed to work as a strategy officer or in intelligence, and just for a successful career in criminology in general?
Interpersonal skills. Ability to talk. Communication.
There is a lot of teamwork involved, but you also your written communication skills. I'm often writing reports for the Assistant Commissioner to send up to the Commissioner. Yeah, your interpersonal skills is probably one of the biggest things. You talk to different variety of people every day. But yeah, we'll touch that after as well.
I would like to add on to that. Adaptive skills. Every person is different. The ability to adapt your communication to that person. I wanted to say adapting skills. Ability to work with different people. I work in a pod with 4 different people. I don't get along with them all the time, but remembering that you're an adult and that you're here to do a job together and able to put your personal side, differences to the side to work together, that is a big thing. I struggled with that for a bit, but now we all get along rosily. What else would you say?
The other thing is, especially, well, I think in a lot of organisations, but particularly the police, I can walk into work knowing I have 10 things to do today. When I walk in 10 minutes later, shit's happened, and you're not doing those 10 things, you're doing 20 things now. So you have to be prepared for unexpected things to happen and be able to be flexible and change what you're doing at the drop of a hat.
Your priorities change daily,
Yes.
especially in our jobs.
Yes.
Like everything changes at the drop of a hat. Like anything could happen, and the next minute I'm off for like a 6-hour drive. I'm like, damn it! I had like 5 case notes to write and a court report to do. But you know, you got to prioritise tomorrow and get it done. Yeah, priority skills and time management.
I'm going to go with a bit of a long thing here. I think you have to set up yourself well to be able to do reflective practice, to know yourself. I think from my own experience, I grew up in a professional role. So straight from high school, straight to uni, straight from uni, straight to a job, and I grew up doing the job. And I had a lot of amazing mentors around me that helped my own personal development. But you need to know yourself, you need to understand the privileged position that we're in, to be able to go to uni and to study, and the people opposite you have lived very different lives quite often. You need to know yourself enough to be able to step out of your own experiences to understand them. There's no course for that, it's a maturity thing, but it's also the number one thing I would say that recruiters will be looking for people outside of uni is a head on your shoulders. You know, you need to be the professional they want you to be day one. So self-reflection, self-practice, a practice framework, external supervision, whatever it might be, you need to know yourself and who you are, because you will grow up on the job, and you don't want to impact those around you from your own learning, I suppose. I don't know if that was very articulate.
No, that's very good.
We have a comment here from a question.
Representing our online viewers, because they're asking questions too. Can you guys, especially those who have worked in probation and parole, talk about what your work hours are like, so how people juggle their personal lives with the jobs that you have as well, and potentially any other challenges that you face in your jobs also?
In my role, we get to choose our hours. So because we do basically case management at the moment, if you've got a heap of cases on the go, sometimes you work a little longer, but most of the time it's just a 9 to 5. You just got to be able to leave your work. When you're done for the day, let it go. Like, don't let that become a part of your personality. So if something at work is getting you down, you've got to be able just to let it go. Like, you are going to be exposed to that much stuff that you're going to be like, I think I understand. I think I've heard everything that a person can do to another person, and then they'll come out with something else, and yeah. Sometimes you just got to know how to separate your work life and your personal life, for sure. So that would be my biggest thing, is to don't let work become who you are.
Okay, one last question, but our panellists do assure me they are going to remain behind. For anyone who would like to ask some further questions, and we have some booths outside with representatives from some other agencies that you can also ask some questions for. So, lucky last question.
As society evolves, do you believe there are going to be any pathways that will become obsolete or less wanted, say?
Well, I mean, that's already in the progress now in the parole part of things. We're moving towards a case more case management thing, instead of just coming to them at the end and saying, okay, we'll look at what you've done so far. We can jump in at the start and say, actually, let's look at programs, because there's no use getting towards the end of their sentence and going, you really should have done a program. Like, even now, some of the roles are not necessarily obsolete, they've just merged, and there's always more and more jobs coming up every day. Like, they're making so many new jobs, it's a great time to be jumping into criminology.
I'm going to say the human element. So, the workload, the administration of any of the jobs sitting here today is ridiculous. It's crazy. The more we can embed IT to reduce that so that we get to be in front of people, working with people, that will be what changes things. So to be the recruit for the future, you have to nail that people stuff. You have to do customer service. You have to demonstrate that you can engage with people from different walks of life. You need to be culturally competent. Like, you have to demonstrate that you have an understanding of those things and that people element. Not only to be a good employee, to be a good teammate, to be respectful of the communities you're working in, to progress. Those fundamental things, those interpersonal skills won't be replaced by technology or anything like that. Unfortunately, I can't see a job in the near future in criminology that's not going to be available.
We're just going to keep on expanding.
We will keep expanding. As we understand more, and I think I would be focusing on early intervention and prevention. I would absolutely be in child space, in family space, in understanding intergenerational trauma, children. We are generations away from doing the impact of some of the cultural stuff going on at the moment.
Yep, no, I agree. That's good. No, I like it.
Okay,